Welcome back to Sam's Finance, where I talk about all things personal finance. Today, I thought it would be interesting for you and me to look at what I'm spending as a university bachelor student in Germany, more precisely in Bavaria. Looking at where your salary is going is an important step when you first get into your personal finance, true to the motto, what gets measured gets done. Without further introduction, let's look at my expenses. The first and also my biggest expense is my rent of 187 euros per month. I live in a government-run student dorm in a shared apartment with two roommates. We all have our own room of about 12 square meters and we share the kitchen and bathroom. Actually, the normal rent is 200 euros, but because I do a small job for the student services in which I look after residents with internet problems, I get exempted from 13 euros internet costs. Apart from the internet, the rent includes heating, electricity, water consumption and furnishings, so basically everything with the exception of laundry that we will get to later on. Now, my dorm is certainly not sophisticated, but it's in a good location close to the university campus and overall just decent for my demands. In comparison to other students in town, my rent definitely is on the lower end, and I also know fellow students that pay 450 euros in rent per month. For many other cities in Germany, this price level of about 4 to 500 euros is the norm, I should say. However, it's still easy to get such a cheap room here where I live. You can even get a single room that is not really more expensive, but significantly harder to get. Overall, I'm happy with living in a shared flat and I'm satisfied with my small home. My next expense is the semester fee that I have to pay to the university for every semester. Generally speaking, there are no tuition fees in Germany, and the semester fee only covers a few admin expenses of the university. The absolute majority is funded by the German taxpayers, and I'm thankful for this. On the other side of the coin, that of course also partially explains the high taxes and levies that one has to pay later on in the professional life in Germany. Just to give you some background if you're not familiar. The semester fee is actually paid for every semester, so for every 6 months, and currently stands at 110 euros where I live. I just broke this amount down to the month, so it does not distort my expenses breakdown. Only a fraction of the semester fee really goes to the university. The other part gives you a student ticket for public transport. In some states, this ticket allows you to take buses and trains throughout the whole state. North Rhine-Westphalia would be an example for this, but there the semester fee is often about 3 times more expensive. In Bavaria, we don't get to travel through the whole state with our semester ticket, but we of course therefore have a lower fee. In my example, the semester ticket is valid for public transport in the county I live in. Next up is my second biggest expense, and that is 147 euros for food. I don't think there is too much more to say about this position. It might be much for some and a small amount for others. I think Germany is a cheap country in terms of food prices, but of course in the end it very much depends on your personal requirements and preferences. I mostly shop at Aldi and sometimes Lidl or Rewe. Another big factor obviously is how often you eat out. I rarely eat out. Up next are the subscriptions, all the subscriptions I have. I have a cellular prepaid card from Aldi Talk, where I get an all-net flat and 3 gigs of data. For Spotify and Netflix, I'm part of family accounts, where we split the monthly fee in equal parts. That only leaves Audible, which I use for hearing non-fiction audiobooks, and all my subscriptions combined amount to about 25 euros per month. Next are 23 euros for what I call household expenses that normally are just laundry expenses, because for every wash cycle I pay 2 euros. However, last month I also bought a new fry pan. Life hack on the side here. Be very careful with pan coatings. When I got this third fry pan in 3 years, I finally read the manual, and so far the indications were helpful in preventing me from destroying the next coding, so learn from my mistake. The second last position is mobility. Here I spent 34 euros for a train ride from my parents' home, where I spent New Year's Eve, to my student dorm. And actually this ticket only covered half of the trip, because then my roommate gave me a ride, and that also tells you where the 10 euros for ride sharing went to. Talking of getting around in Germany without owning a car, locally public transport is a good option in most cities. For longer distances, you can choose between the train, long distance buses, and ride sharing platforms like BlaBlaCar. I don't really like train traveling because it's incomprehensible expensive to me, not really fast, except you travel ICE, Intercity Express, the German high-speed rail system, and then it's often even more expensive. And it only really is fast if you travel between Germany's top 10 cities. Long distance buses are always cheaper, but not by much, and they are a lot slower for the most part. I only tried it once and I'm not a fan. My favorite choice for transport, therefore, are actually ride-sharing services. They are often the fastest and also the cheapest option. Also, I have had some good conversations on these trips and I've never had a bad experience. The problem, of course, is to find someone that covers your trip point to point. From what I can tell, more and more people, also drivers, explore this option, so it's getting easier, and then you also don't have to worry about transfer times and missing your exit because you fell asleep. However, stepping into a stranger's car who you only know from an internet platform also takes courage, especially in the beginning. I get that. I can highly recommend it so far. Okay, my last expense was a small 7 euro position for presents. And in total, all added up, then makes 451 euros and 75 cents that I spent in January 2021. And from past expense trackings, I can tell you that this gives you a good picture of my usual monthly expenses, apart from the fry pan, hopefully. For all of you who live in a US dollar world, here are my expenses converted into US dollar. 2 subsequent comments under subscriptions. You normally also have to account for the national radio license fee of 17 euros and 50 cents per month per household. That is unless you qualify for BAföG, what is the German federal program for support in education. As you see, I also don't list any health or other insurance costs, and that's because in Germany you are co-insured with your family until you are 25 or until you start your professional life. Now, if you liked my expense breakdown, here are the tools I used if you want to do it for yourself. I use the Money Manager app on my Android phone to track the expenses one by one and by category. And then I use the free web app Zenke-Matic for the Zenke diagram or flow diagram you saw to visualize the money flows. I can only recommend doing it from time to time because if you know where your salary is going, it's easier to identify potentials for savings, or even if you're not trying to lower your expenses, it gives you a nice sense of control to know what you spend your money on. With that said, thank you for watching, and if you want to know more about personal finance, please consider subscribing. That helps my channel to grow and keeps me going. And remember, just be lekker. Bye bye.